are now tuned in to the Lineman Lounge, the world's thickest sports podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Evo.
¿Cómo están, bitches? The Underwear Olympics are on TV, and you get it here, too. I gotta go run a 40. Evo, bring the people in.
All right, everybody. How's it going? Lineman Lounge on a Saturday. It is March 2nd. We have the NFL Scouting Combine, also known as the Underwear Olympics, going on. As you just saw, Mike is already in his underwear. Been watching it, and he's going to go run a 40, apparently. Or you can also tell I'm here. Didn't get my invite to the Combine, but I am going to be running that 40, doing some events here at what we'll call my pro day here shortly. But yeah, we're getting a fun show for you today. We are still in the middle of this off season, and the silly season part of everything is still going on. Lots of rumors and things like that. No tampering is happening, of course, but you have all the GMs, head coaches, scouts, things like that, all out there in Indianapolis right now for the Combine. Lots of probable tampering and talks about contracts going on, lots of rumors, things like that, which we're keeping track of. But you know, we've got a couple different things to go over today, other than just that sort of stuff going on at Scouting Combine. We have the NFLPA's report card grades, second year in a row. Those have come out with some interesting results. And then on top of that, we're going to be going over the rest of the defense. Last week, we did defensive linemen, edge type players. This week, we're going to be going over linebackers and defensive backs, which a little bit of a weaker group in this draft class, so it should be relatively short. Mike, you are back. How did that 40 go? I mean, it seemed pretty.
It was good. It was good. Unofficial 4.51.
Not even out of breath.
No. Come on.
Unofficial
40
what?
yards. Unofficial 4.51.
Okay.
We'll see what it comes back with once it's been officially clocked. But right now, times are looking good.
Yeah, so that's I was telling the people, obviously I'm here and not at the Scouting Combine. I currently got the Scouting Combine up here. I'm here. I didn't get my invite. It must have gotten lost in the mail. I'm going to be doing my 40 and other events at my pro day here in the near future. I'm sure that those will end up getting clipped and placed online for everyone to view and accept their validity in the fullest.
Absolutely, as they should. And guys, if you haven't seen, we have a lot more clips coming out daily basis pretty much now. We got them on TikTok. They're over on YouTube Shorts. So if you want to catch just a small piece of what we got going on, go check out the clips. If you like the show, if you like the clips, go ahead, subscribe, all that shit, and then you'll get to rock with us every week. But my man, we have a group of players that we got to talk about, and I'm not sure either one of us are overly excited. Did we just start diving into the Combine? Because we've seen these kids, kind of run already. We've seen some of the stuff that they're going to do. I'm ready to dive in on linebackers and DBs, unless there's any other little housekeeping things that we want to take care of before we start diving into this show.
No, I'm cool with that. We can start off here because this Scouting Combine is going on, and if you see me looking up or Mike looking away, we're probably watching some of these guys. We got
that is 100% what is happening.
But yeah, we can jump into these linebackers, the defensive backs, then get into maybe a little bit of the rumor mill that's been floating around here at Indianapolis, and then of course get into those NFLPA grades and what they kind of mean for teams again this year.
Yeah, oh man, the NFLPA grades are always fun. But let's talk about some of these prospects, man. Let's start with linebacker. We saw linebackers on the field the other day. There were some surprises. I think some guys ran a lot better than people expected. Maybe some guys didn't. But just right off the rip, I want to know your guy. Who's your number one dude at the linebacker spot? Who do you like? Because I know we had a conversation last week. Did we have certain edge rushers as linebackers? I know for me, I had him as an edge. You had him as a linebacker. Is that your number one guy, or we got a different number one linebacker?
Who are you referring to specifically here? Chop Robinson?
Not Chop Robinson, even though I was very, very excited with what Chop Robinson was able to put on display.
He had himself a nice little combine there.
He sure did. And I was talking about Dallas Turner.
Oh, yes. I mean, Dallas Turner, I don't see him as that hand in the dirt guy. And he, ran and did events yesterday. Look, this has been floating around, not just here, but he's a, sports car, but the driver is a 6-year-old kind of situation. So, and that's not to be necessarily that much of a pejorative against him as like a person or anything like that, or anything about his character or demeanor or anything like that. It's just he's not he's got a insane athletic body and specimen, situation going on, but the technique just isn't there for me yet.
A
People are
little bit.
on those. I don't even want to call it traits. People are going to bet on that athletic capability and hope that they can mold it into something. With where he's looking at being drafted in, that high first round, we're talking as high as possibly like pick 9 area. It's just not worth it for me at that point because I want a guy that can come in and contribute right away. To me, that is still more of a developmental late first, early second type of guy based off of the pedigree from being at Alabama and that athletic talent and stuff like that. And you've seen some production there for sure. It's just I want someone that can step in more so in those early picks. But linebacker wise, straight up linebacker guy that we talked about before the show, it's not a great group, people. It's not.
That's not a great group.
Linebacker, especially more of the interior linebacker, your 3-4 interior guys or 4-3 middle linebacker or 4-3 linebackers in general, they've been definitely devalued. You're seeing that they're very important in the NFL, but they don't get paid as much. They don't get drafted as high. They're just kind of a devalued position because, your edge rushers, defensive line, and cornerbacks on the defense tend to be more of an important position overall. But we have one guy here that I think is it'll be interesting to see where he goes, and we aren't going to know, how his medicals turned out here at the combine, really, unless things leak or until draft day, because Peyton Wilson out of North Carolina State has the potential to be as high as a late first round pick, in my opinion, based on the production that he had on the field, how his size, speed, all that stuff. Like he ran great yesterday. And like PFF grades have been really good. He's 6'4", 238. It's just he's got a lot of injury history, dating all the way back to high school. And it's not like, he keeps re-injuring one knee or something like that. Like he's had, shoulder separations and knee issues and this, that, and the other. I listened to an interview with him on Sirius NFL radio, and he, was talking about how he doesn't believe that he's injury prone. He thinks that he's just had a bad roll of luck. And we've seen with some players where like they will have injury, and then they'll be fine. It is just a bad, luck situation. Christian McCaffrey, for one, he had injuries, and then he gets the injury prone label put on him, and now we're sitting here 2 years now of him in San Fran, and it's not reoccurring. So maybe that's the case with Peyton Wilson, and we'll see if teams are willing to bet on that. But if he ends up dropping a little bit in the draft, it's probably because of those injury concerns. I still think that his floor is probably as a second round pick based on just what we saw in the field. We have a bit of differing opinion on him as far as like his coverage capability. He's had, a couple pick sixes and things like that. PFF has him rated as one of their highest rated coverage linebackers, especially towards the top end of this class. And I liked his coverage skills. You aren't as big of a fan.
I'm not. It's to me now in man coverage, he does just fine. He's good at covering running backs out of the backfield, but in zone, when I was watching, he gets lost a little bit. He kind of ends up in no man's land where he's not deep enough to cover a fucking safety, but you can tell that he's not necessarily cover a tight end or anybody like that in that hook curls area, but he's not necessarily in a spy either. He just kind of ends up in no man's land, but he also has had some fucking luck there because he'll get tip passes. And that's how he got one of his pick sixes. I believe the pick six against Clemson is exactly how that happened. He's kind of in no man's land, and then tip pass at the line lands right in his hands. So for me, I would like to see him be better with his depth, get better in his drops if he's going to be in zone coverage. So that's the area in his coverage that I don't like. And obviously PFF is we like PFF. I like PFF.
Yeah.
But I don't see the same
trust thing. One grading spot. I think that he's natural in coverage. The weird thing with him is that like he's got good size, but his limbs still seem kind of almost lanky. Like you could build that frame out a little bit more. But that sort of speed that he has allows him to keep up with basically any tight end coming across the middle, in my opinion. And that makes him more of a natural coverage linebacker in the middle. I don't like him going up against slot guys and things like that, even though he's probably going to be better suited for that than some other linebackers who are not as quick as him. He has kind of some of those movement skills of the defensive back in a linebacker, which, I like. The thing that I'm not a huge fan of Wilson with, and it's not something that I'm necessarily expecting to do, is I don't think he's a great pass rusher. He doesn't have a skill set for pass rushing. He doesn't have the moves. He needs schemes to create holes for him to rush the passer.
Yes, I was going to say I love seeing him work with the D tackles in their stunts and him coming through the A gap, but I don't want to see this guy rush anybody off the edge.
Yeah, and I don't think that's what he's really suited for so much. But so that's not that big of a knock for me, and that's why I said I still think he's a second round pick with a team that's feeling frisky about him. Could take him in the first if those medicals really check out. This last year, 92 tackles, 31 assists, only 6 missed tackles throughout the entire year, despite playing 715 defensive snaps in 12 games.
17 tackles for loss, 6 fucking sacks. I mean, the dude was all over the field. He is fucking sideline to sideline, downhill really quick. I like a lot of things about this kid. Some of the things I don't necessarily love, but it's not a great linebacker class. I think this guy might be one of the better ones that we're going to see. You saw a great run, 4-4, was it 4-4-3, decent 10-yard split, 1-5-4. Like, the dude can move, so I think he still is capable of, being a very productive starter at the NFL level. There's things to clean up. None of these linebacker prospects are even remotely close to clean. I don't know if there's a true first round grade on anybody in this class.
Yeah, like I said, you could see Peyton Wilson sneaking up in the first round if someone falls in love with those measurables, but it's got to be the medicals as well. And again, you don't have anyone that you're going to be like, oh, this guy's a for sure first rounder right now. Other than that, right behind Wilson, if those medicals do not work out, I've got basically 3 guys that are in the conversation in the next grouping of linebackers, and that's Edgerrin Cooper, Junior Colson, and Jeremiah Trotter Jr., with Jeremiah Trotter Jr. probably being more of the odd man out of that group. He's got a lot of name recognition. His father played in the NFL. A lot of us will remember that last name. I do like Edgerrin Cooper and Junior Colson. I do think that they both can be productive starters. Maybe not in year 1, though. Those are guys that are going to probably have to rotate in a little bit. But after that, things are just kind of wishy-washy. Like none of these guys super jump off the tape to me. Do you have any other linebackers you want to talk about? I'll go into a couple guys I like.
I mean, so I have write-ups on. I have a write-up on Edgerrin Cooper, and I have a write-up on Jeremiah Trotter. I'll start with Cooper. There are some things that I do like about this kid, but there are some things, again, not a clean prospect. Big hitter, but not really a tackler. That is a problem. He's able to hit people now because he is a supreme athlete compared to other college kids. It doesn't work that way in the NFL. Like, you're gonna have to learn how to tackle a little bit better than what he's doing right now. But he is a fucking fantastic athlete in space. Is great in space. Tends to not fight through contact. Doesn't do a great job of fighting through blocks. Will a lot of times kind of circumvent and try to go back behind, but he's got good enough athleticism that I think he's able to do that. Really good in the run game, but once again, not great in coverage. Like, he makes a lot of negative plays happen because he's so quick to trigger in the run game. But there will be teams that take advantage of that as well. So that's what I got on Edgerrin Cooper.
Okay. My number 2 guy in this class for me is actually Junior Colson.
Okay.
And I, again, not a pass rusher. His biggest downsides for me are change of direction stuff. He can kind of get, like, he's not super fluid with his hips. So if you see a guy do a cutback or something like that, or kind of having to wait on zone runs, he will get kind of flushed out or not know exactly where to go with it. But in general, I think that he's a solid linebacker, solid interior linebacker. that he'll be able to play at least as a 2-down role. I don't expect him to start right away, but within a couple of years, I feel like he could probably end up rotating in there as a regular starter on a team. But when you're talking about players like this and all of these guys that we're talking about right now in this section, whether it's Junior Colson, Edgerrin Cooper, or even Jeremiah Trotter, we're talking about
Second,
maybe
third
they
round.
slip into the second round, but I still have more third round or later grades on them, with Jeremiah Trotter being that late third, possibly falling off into the fourth. And once you're getting into that range, the rest of the guys on this list and people that I'll bring up names of, these guys are fifth round or later UDFA type of guys that I like the potential there. I like the development possibilities, but I don't expect them to be out there starting unless they kind of pop and become a sleeper.
All right. One quick question for you, though. We were just talking a little bit about Edgerrin Cooper, or I was before. You have the write-up on him as well. Do you see him more as an outside linebacker, or can he play middle?
I like him a little bit better as an outside guy.
Me too, man. I don't know if he can still continue to play in the middle. Like, it feels like he's got to slide outside.
Yeah. All right, Jeremiah Trotter, what do you got on him?
Jeremiah Trotter. So this is a guy that I actually really like his coverage skills. This is probably the guy who does his best dropping back into a zone. Good blitzer, but not great, not a great athlete. And that athleticism is going to be a detriment. Like, is he going to be athletic enough to compete at the next level? But he's so fucking smart. Like we brought up, his dad was an NFL linebacker. Like, he knows the game, so he's often in the right spot. But he has the chance to, not pan out because he's not athletic. Outside of that, man, like, I like his coverage skills. I don't love him working through traffic. I don't like him necessarily in the run game. I want to see him blitz, or I want to see him drop into coverage. It's tough to have a guy that is so opposite ended. Like, he's got to do one of those two things. You can't necessarily have him just sit back, read and react, because I think he'll get smoked. What do you got on him?
Yeah, I kind of have him as that B tier linebacker where it's a guy that can rotate in a little bit. His coverage grade for me is decent. It's not bad. But it's kind of like everything else in his game. His run defense grade is so. He had more missed tackles than I would have liked. On 53 tackles that he made, he had 12 or 15 tackles that he missed, which a 16% roughly missed tackle rate I'm not a huge fan of from a linebacker. I'm hoping that they're going to be a little bit more stout. You see that number kind of increase and drop off though after him, and you're not seeing that missed tackle rate from the guys that we talked about before him.
Right.
So he's got to clean that up. Again, it's a pedigree thing for me here. Like, I don't dislike him and what I saw. I just don't like him as being like a plug and play starter, which is where, if we're talking about like the top 4 linebackers in the class, I'd hope these guys could be plug and play starters, or hopefully getting into a starting role within a year or so. And I just don't think that's going to happen with him unless he starts to fill out that pedigree role, like playing like his dad. And you typically like to lean a little bit more towards a guy where their parent was a top end talent. They were around that. Hopefully they can kind of reach their potential a little bit higher. You see it more often than not. I think that some of these guys were like, if their parent was really good, they're going to at least be average.
Right.
So yeah, I'm uninspired by him, but I see some of the potential there, I guess.
I think we're kind of in a similar boat there.
Yeah.
So what about some of these other guys that you might like as a late round flyer?
Yeah, so all these guys got definitely late round, 5th, 6th, 7th, or UDFA. Cedric Gray, I'm a fan of, out of North Carolina, 6'2", 235, a little bit more of an outside linebacker. He's kind of in that 15% missed tackle range, which I don't like, again. But 80 tackles, 19 missed tackles, not too shabby. Not great in run defense, but a decent coverage linebacker. And again, this is kind of a guy that is rotational, special teams, and then maybe works his way into a roster if he kind of meets potential, couple years down the line. Darius, and I'm going to fuck this name up, Darius Mwasau, is kind of viewed as a 7th round linebacker, though he's had himself a really good combine so far. He's actually towards the top of the pack in a lot of different categories. Another linebacker who is pretty damn good in coverage, okay in run defense, not great, but he's a guy that isn't a quick twitch athlete, not much of a athlete in general, but he's that guy that I can kind of see fitting in as a middle linebacker on passing downs where you're not having to worry about the run as much. He's got qualities to be a 2-down player, but I'm not again not plug and play by any means there, and definitely gonna have to work himself as a special teamer. And then Dallas Gant out of Toledo, a guy that we talked about beforehand. You might know him because he played at Ohio State for a year before transferring over to Toledo. A little bit smaller. Well, no, actually not smaller. He's 6'3", 230, but the problem for me is that he hasn't got a frame that he can fill out any more than what he has to be more of a traditional middle linebacker. Like, I feel like he has maxed that frame out. He was pretty productive there at Toledo. Only 8 missed tackles this last year with 88 total tackles, so a 6.3 missed tackle rate. Coverage grade's pretty good. Terrible pass rusher. Like, you don't want him out there rushing the pass at all. But run defense is good. Coverage is good. The thing with Gant is that he will bite on things that he shouldn't. He's slow to locate where the ball is going to be going, and then when he does locate that, he is gonna over pursue, under pursue sometimes. The one cutback that can kind of catch him, or where now he's over pursued and he's out of the play a little bit. But another guy that look, Gant, I feel like is going to be a 7th rounder at best, but he's definitely one of those priority UDFA type guys, in my opinion, that you can definitely develop as a special teamer long term. And I do kind of like, out of those guys that I mentioned, I kind of like his upside as someone who's going to make a roster and be a rotational player, and you're not going to feel terrible about him being out there. And then the last one, Edifon Ulo, I always just call him Ulo, but it's Ulofoshio, something like that, out of Washington. Smart guy, more of a 3-4 inside linebacker, quick, 6'1", 236, so he's not got the height requirement that I'm kind of looking for, but he is definitely more of a team leader type of guy. He was at the Senior Bowl. He was calling plays to the defense a lot, put on his plate. Really good in coverage, terrible in run defense. That's so to me, he's a special teams type of linebacker, and only someone that you would want out there in pass coverage. But even then, not fantastic. But that's the guy that I've seen some places having him as high as having a 4th round grade. To me, he's probably 6th, 7th still, with the potential of even falling out of the first or out of the draft altogether.
Okay. So one guy that I did like later in the rounds. Now this is probably a little bit of a homer pick because I graduated high school from the state of Wyoming, but Easton Gibb, man, like ran terrible. Like there is nothing good about his combine so far. I'm pretty sure. He ran a 4.73, 159 in the 10-yard split. I mean, that's okay. 31.5-inch vertical, 9 foot, 1 inch broad jump, not an explosive athlete, but like he had so much production. Wyoming has done a pretty good job of actually turning out some decent linebackers as well. And then if you turn on the tape and watch this guy, he's kind of all over the place, which is a good thing and a bad thing. He is trying to make every play and will at times catch himself way the fuck out of position because he's trying to make every goddamn play from positions where he maybe not necessarily should. But I like his tenacity. He's got a fucking motor. Give me a linebacker with a motor. This is a guy that's gonna probably be a special teamer, and then we'll try to work up from there. But if you want to take a late round flyer on a kid or a UDFA, somebody who can come in and is just going to play like a fucking madman. That's a practice squad dude who can just fly all over the field. You don't necessarily know where he's going to go. Yeah, Easton Gibb, I think has some potential to maybe stick on a roster.
Yeah. He's a poor man Josie Jewell to me, and I think that he could fill out that role really well, and stick on a roster as well. All righty. Are you done with linebackers? Ready to move on to the defensive backs, specifically the cornerbacks?
Yeah, I am ready for corners. I got a couple guys there that I did some in-depth write-ups, but I could talk about quite a few of these guys. So where do you want to start, man? Do you want to go first?
Sure. And I'm going to start this off by saying I've brought it up in the past. The cornerback class isn't great, but you do at the top end have some definite standout guys, in my opinion. Guys that I really like, a couple guys I really like. Um, some guys listed, a Cooper DeJean is listed as a cornerback, and I think that he can play cornerback, but I almost like him more as a safety.
Right.
But this first grouping, you've got, in my opinion, about 5 guys that are definitely first round worthy. 1 or 2 might fall out of the first round, and then that second tier, it's a noticeable drop off from those guys into guys that should be going in the second round, and then after that, it's really kind of open season where who knows who's going to hit. You're going to be having guys in 4th, 5th rounds that might end up being like Kobe Bryant for Seattle, or might end up just being a nobody. And it's not a deep class for cornerbacks here. The guys I have in that kind of first bracket, though, in no order specifically, other than just how PFF has them up here, because that's the list I'm going off of, is Cooper DeJean, Nate Wiggins, Quinyon Mitchell, Terrion Arnold, and Kool-Aid McKinstry, with a guy that's on the outside looking in, but still could almost be considered part of this group, and Enos Rakestraw Jr., who I do like a little bit better than some of these guys. But my favorite guy out of this group, and it's almost a 1A, 1B situation, is Quinyon Mitchell. I love Quinyon Mitchell. I think he's the best cornerback in this group, very closely followed by Terrion Arnold. Really like Terrion Arnold as well. To me, those two guys, you can't go wrong with selecting either of them. Quinyon Mitchell out of Toledo, there was a lot of questions about him, if he was going to be only a scheme fit type of cornerback, and he went into the Senior Bowl and was able to do everything that was asked of him extremely well. Super high grades on basically everything, including being a solid run defender. Only 1 interception. If you look at interceptions as being a big metric for you, like the Dallas Cowboys obviously do, Quinyon Mitchell maybe isn't your guy, but coverage wise, like, he was just
passes defense.
Yeah, he fantastic cornerback. Otherwise, zone coverage grade was really good. But like I said, he showed in the Senior Bowl he can do it all. You don't have to look at this guy as being a scheme specific guy, which originally had him a little bit later in the first round as like maybe the 5th guy in this group, and now I think he's really skyrocketed to being like number 1 or number 2 for most people. And then Terrion Arnold, 6 foot 196 out of Alabama, great again in basically all types of coverage. He wasn't asked to do a lot of man coverage at Alabama, and so he struggled there some on tape. But 5 interceptions, 2 touchdowns from Terrion Arnold, and he is a more of a motivational leader. We kind of saw that at the combine here, where he's hooting and hollering and getting the rest of the cornerback group with him kind of riled up a little bit, and more of a motivational guy. But I really like what I saw out of him as well. Both those guys, I feel like, are day 1 starters on the outside and the perimeter. Terrion Arnold has more flexibility to go inside if need be. And I do kind of like Quinyon Mitchell as more of just a boundary guy. But what do you got here on your top cornerbacks? Who do you got as your main dude?
So my favorite guy is also Quinyon Mitchell. I didn't do a super in-depth write-up, though, on him, because I feel like it's kind of becoming apparent that he's easily the best cornerback in this draft. There were concerns, I think, with the level of play that he was, going up against, because fucking Toledo guy, right?
Yeah.
But you go to the Senior Bowl and you do all these things. Then he goes to the combine. He fucking tests insane. Like, he's easily right now, to me, the best dude. Number 2, I have Cooper DeJean, but I'm not confident that Cooper stays a corner. Like, I would love to see Cooper DeJean stay a corner, but I'm not sure if he's going to be able to. It will really depend on how he runs. I could easily see him getting converted over. But like the guy, actually, I'll do my write-up on Cooper DeJean real quick since I brought him up. I'm just going to read what I wrote here at the beginning because it's hilarious, in my opinion. So Team White getting another defensive back. Pretty fucking pumped about Team White getting a defensive back. But will he be a corner? Nobody knows. It's a natural athlete, coach's kid, hard worker, quicker than fast. Oh, well, he's actually an athlete. We're not going to give him all the stereotypical white athlete monikers because
he made Bruce Feldman's freak list as an athlete.
Yeah, he's a fucking stud, dude. Like it does not matter. He can play any position. He can go to safety. He can play outside corner. He can play in the fucking slot. He is a big body, but that also may hurt him a little bit. He's a little tight getting in and out of his breaks. But if you get this kid in a scheme where he's running like cover 2 a lot, press cover 2, he can be fucking dangerous. Like he has a very similar makeup to the way Richard Sherman was built. Like that is kind of who he reminds me of comp wise. Not as tall, not as long, but very, very similar in the way they play the game. So I love Cooper DeJean. I don't know if he stays a corner though. He's going to be, he's scheme specific. I don't think you can have him in a press cover all the time, cover 1, because I think he's not going to be good enough in and out of breaks. What do you got on Cooper? Anything else that I missed?
I also really like Cooper. He's, to me, one of those multi-tool players, and that's what I really like about him. I don't necessarily want him on my Vikings because I don't want to go out and draft him as high as he's going to need to be drafted. That being said, he's kind of a perfect fit for one of those defenses like a Brian Flores where we're using our safeties in such different roles where they will be in the slot, they'll be at linebacker, they'll be on the defensive line, or they'll be playing safety. Like he is kind of that multi-tool that can do anything. The thing that you kind of brought up, he's a little bit more muscle bound, like he's bulked up for his frame and everything, and that will cause him to lose some of his fluidity. But he's an aggressor. He always seems to be around the ball. He has a knack for finding ways to the ball. I believe he also returns like punts or kicks or something like that.
Oh, yeah. Well. He fucking won one game with a punt return late. I don't remember who they were playing, but like, obviously, I think if you watch college football at all, you know that Iowa can't score the ball to save their fucking lives. Yep. That 6 points from Cooper DeJean wins them the game on a very late punt return because it was almost certain that Iowa was not going to fucking score.
Yeah. If I'm drafting him, I like him to be either a slot corner. I actually like him in the slot a lot better than I do at the outside because I want him to be able to use those skills as a tackler and everything, be more involved in the run game, things like that. But that's, to me, I could see him being like the next Harrison Smith type of linebacker, hard-nosed, hard hitter, good at getting or having a knack for finding the ball, getting opportunistic interceptions, things like that. He's a fun player. He really is. And he is nursing some injury stuff right now. I believe he's not testing at the combine because of it. But yeah,
if your team likes playing the big nickel,
yeah,
Cooper DeJean is your fucking dude. He's the perfect fit for that defense. If your team plays a lot of big nickel.
Yeah. I really love the positional flexibility with this guy. Not to say that he can't play outside corner. I know I said I like him a little bit more as an inside corner. My preference would be as a guy who's going to kind of mix between slot and safety and things like that, and that big nickel kind of role. Really big fan of him. But to me, he's still kind of it's Quinion Mitchell and Terrion Arnold, and then Cooper DeJean right behind that for me.
Yeah. So another guy that I got still in that top tier, but a little farther down, Nate Wiggins. Goes out and fucking puts on a show. Runs a great combine. What was the fucking time? 4.28. Only a 1.59 10-yard split though, which means he's got a lot of long speed. And you can kind of see that his makeup speed is way more impressive than his initial burst because he uses his hands way too fucking much. He's going to have to get used to getting hands off after 5 yards. College, hands can be on until ball's in the air. That's going to be a huge adjustment for Wiggins. But because he is fucking 6'1", long athlete, can run like the goddamn wind, you could see the ability for him to maybe step into a role and not get flagged so much. But this is another guy, in my opinion, boom bust. He should play for the goddamn Cowboys. He is going to jump every short route as hard as he fucking can. And if you throw it, he's taking it for 6. However, if you run a double move, he is so susceptible to getting torched over the top.
It is a coin flip, though, as well with him. If the ball makes it to the receiver, they're probably catching it. Like, he doesn't have as much of the hand fighting at the point of contact with the receiver. In college, quarterbacks had almost a 43% completion percentage when throwing to him, almost a coin flip there. So it's because he's the aggressor on the ball. He's either going to kind of get hands on that ball and possibly take it to the house type situation, or the receiver's going to get it and get their yardage. Not a huge run defender or anything like that. I do like him, but he is a lot more that boomer bust type of quarterback or cornerback.
Yeah, he's a fucking Deron Bland light.
Yeah. Other guys in this group, any of those guys that I mentioned that you want to talk about specifically?
I mean, we could talk about Kool-Aid, but I'm not 100% sure where I fall on Kool-Aid yet. There's times where you look at the athlete that he is, and then you see the tape, you're like, God damn, this dude is a number 1 lockdown corner. And other times you're like, what the fuck is he doing? Was he playing football? Does he know where he's at right now? So he is so up and down for me, man.
That's, I think, where a lot of the NFL is going to be on him. It seems like he takes times of the game off.
Yeah.
Like he takes plays off, or he'll take portions of the game off, and that's absolutely not something that you want to see from a potential first-round pick cornerback. And then again, other times he will look better than Terrion Arnold, who he's also going up against as an Alabama cornerback. And so to me, that definitely drops him later in the first round, or he's one of those guys that I think Enos Rakestraw replaces, goes in the first round, because he's a lot more of a consistent cornerback, and Kool-Aid, that inconsistency could make him fall down there into the second round. I don't think he'll last long in the second round if he goes there. But when you start talking about those second round guys, the second round grouping, I've got guys like a TJ Tampa, Kamari Lassiter, and Mike Sainstrill out of Michigan, who Sainstrill I view as pretty much a slot corner, but I really like him as a slot corner. It's just I'm not taking him as high. Like I think he's the best slot corner back in this group. I just think that is devalued for whatever reason a little bit in the NFL, where
that's Sainstrill for you?
Huh?
You said that was Sainstrill for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that he'll go in the second round because of it. And he's had a pretty good combine as well. But I think he's a day 2 guy because he is a little bit more beholden to being a slot corner.
Yeah.
Only.
Well, when you're fucking 5'9", it's tough. Like, you get typecast immediately if you're not at least 5'11" now.
Yeah, close to.
So,
you're not going to see many boundary corners 5'10" or lower. So
not anymore. Like, back in the day, you could get away being a smaller corner because typically they were far better. Like, just natural athletes could jump out of fucking buildings. But now receivers are getting bigger and corners are just getting taller and fucking taller, man. Like, almost every single one of these dudes that we're talking about is 6 foot. And that was a very rare thing to have a cornerback be a 6-footer back in the day, because they just weren't as fluid of an athlete when you got that tall. And now it's the level of athlete is so superior. Sorry, all the old heads out there. We're in the same boat. I'm fucking 36 years old. The athletes that they got now are way better than the athletes that I was. Like, it's fucking insane.
Any other cornerbacks that you want to go over here?
I'm good, man. Like, this is such a kind of a shit class.
Yeah.
You could toss a dart in rounds, fucking 4 through 6, and you're going to hit somebody who might be decent, but he's going to have major flaws on tape or whatever, and could pan out. I don't love this cornerback class. I don't love the safety class either. It's even fucking worse.
Yeah. I'll throw out a couple names for people to kind of watch here. Renardo Green out of FSU had himself a pretty good combine so far. He is that cornerback to safety flexible type player. He's played some safety in college. 6 foot 186, decent in coverage with the zone, but really good at man coverage. But I feel like he's going to be kind of that mix of your fourth, fifth cornerback or your second safety type of guy that hopefully develops a little bit. This year he did have a decent amount of production though, 3 touchdowns. So he got a couple fumble recovery touchdowns as well this year, with only 1 interception. I have him as being a 4th round guy, though I think that there's a little bit of steam of him climbing a little bit, not anything drastic. He's probably still that 3rd, 4th round range. DJ James out of Auburn, you like everything about him except for he's a toothpick. He's 6'1", 164 was what PFF had him at. I believe that he was able to measure in here for the combine up to about 174, 175.
That would be great, but yeah,
it's good.
Can he maintain the weight?
Yeah. During a season, he will not. And usually kind of when you're talking about a cornerback 6 foot and above,
got to be at least 180 pounds. I want him to be.
180 is the line that most NFL teams are kind of looking for, preferably 185. And so he's not meeting that. And so the guy looks like he kind of fold in half despite having really good grades in both man and zone coverage. So he's a guy that'll go late, and people are going to bet on the skills in college, but who knows if he's going to be able to hold up in the NFL at all. And
that's a real fucking thing, man. Like a corner who doesn't have any size is worthless in the run game, like prone to injury. We've seen Denzel Ward get banged up so many times out here in Cleveland, and he is slight of frame. And he doesn't have a problem tossing his body in there, but because he's so slight of frame, that injuries have been a huge issue. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Who's your other guy you got there?
Oh, no, you're good. The other one for me is Dwight McGlothern out of Arkansas. I like the size. I like the measurable, 6'2", 188. He's got good grades, especially in zone coverage. Like, he can play man, but he's really typecast as more of a zone coverage defender. And then in the Senior Bowl, I thought he looked like dog shit. Like, I liked what I saw on tape. The little bit I saw of him looked good. 3 interceptions, 2 touchdowns this year. Only targeted 25 times. I liked everything I saw in college, but again, Senior Bowl, I just thought he looked like dog shit. And so this guy is kind of 5th, 6th round for me, and hopefully something that you can develop a little bit more. But I do think that he's a lot more typecast to that zone coverage type of a team. And that's kind of it for me on cornerbacks.
Did you bring up Kamari Lassiter?
I don't remember if I said the name or not, but he is part of that day 2 grouping for me. Like, he should be a 2nd round, maybe falls in the 3rd round, but I think he's a decent cornerback.
So the only reason I'm bringing him up is because I don't know if anybody remembers from last year. I'm sure you do. I'm real big on that 3-cone drill, man. Like, you want to see an explosive athlete, watch him do the 3-cone drill and see how good that time comes out. 6'6" 2 3-cone drill. That is fucking flying, man. He's an interesting prospect because of the elite start stop and the agility. Like, I love that quickness, but I'm just gonna keep pounding the drum on the 3-cone drill means a lot more than the goddamn 40 does.
Yeah, and I've learned a little bit more about what some of these teams look. Teams will not view. It's rare that a team looks at the 40-yard dash and says, this is their 40-yard dash time. This is what we're taking as our analytical spectrum. They usually are looking for the 10-yard split, or I guess some teams like the last 20 yards, basically a flying 20. And how that fits into their analytics, I don't exactly know, but I've been getting a little bit deeper into what some teams are looking for and how they place players into buckets and stuff like that.
So give me the first 10 in the 3-cone drill. I want to see short area, quickness, burst. That's because for the most part, NFL, you're not breaking out wide open and ripping off long runs. Show me that short area quickness.
Yeah, well, that's also us being linemen. You find the explosion from a player in those first 10 yards, the 10-yard split. I don't give a shit if a defensive lineman goes out there and runs a 4-6, I want to know what their 10-yard split is, because that's the explosion. Because if they're going more than 10 yards, the play's already fucked. So, yeah, that's kind of what we're looking for there. On
I was
guys.
not a lineman. I was a running back, but also important. 10-yard split, very important.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we're the linemen.
But I coach linemen. I coach linemen. So, yeah, those are so much more important to me. I don't give a fuck about a 40. I want to see the explosiveness.
For sure. All right, safeties. Another fun.
I got one dude. I got one dude to talk about in the safety group because they're not great. So I'm going to bring him up. Callum Bullock. Listen, this guy was playing in the wrong position in college. He played safety, but he was in the box a lot. This is the guy that I think, you know how we see Cooper DeJean can maybe convert from corner to safety. This is a guy who's a safety that may be able to convert to corner because he's so fucking good in his phase, like staying in phase with a receiver, but also ran very well and looks so much better as a deep safety. I don't want to see this kid anywhere near the fucking box at all. Like, I really don't. And that's where he was playing a lot at USC, but he's not a tackler. You see him in the deep third, though, he's fucking all over the field. Like, I think that, Callum Bullock could be a great deep third safety. Rangy, long, runs well, excellent ball skills. That's what I got. That's the dude that if I'm looking for a safety, if I'm looking for a free safety, I don't get worried about the things that he was doing necessarily at USC. I find those moments where he was playing a deep third safety. I watch the quickness sideline to sideline, and that's where I draft this kid to play. I'm not putting him as a strong safety.
Okay. And yeah, for me, I don't have a lot to go over here with the safeties either. The top one that you're probably looking at, I think by most teams' viewpoints, is Tyler Nubin out of Minnesota. You are not getting yourself an Antoine Winfield Jr. out of this guy. He's good. He's not great. He's not anything special. I think that you aren't even necessarily going to look at him as being a day one starter because he's probably going to be a second round pick. Sometimes he sneaks into the first round in mocks and things like that, but I just don't really see it. I think he's more of a second round pick type of guy. He's got the ideal frame that you're looking for, ideal size. He's a sure tackler, but he's not super fluid. He doesn't take great routes and relies on his physicality a little bit too much in the long term. And then you have a handful of guys with, to me, Tyler Nubin kind of being at the top of them, but a handful of these guys that'll be like second round picks, and it's going to be how teams view them. From that Callum Bullock that you just talked about from USC, Javon Bullard from Georgia, and then Cameron Kitchens. I've seen Cameron Kitchens being listed as the top safety in this class as well, but sometimes he's rated as low as a third round pick. He is definitely that boom or bust type of cornerback, almost like we were talking about how the Dallas Cowboys like their boom or bust cornerbacks who will go out there and get a lot of interceptions. He's the same way, lots of turnovers. I believe he might have led the FBS in interceptions from the safety position this last year. So boomer bust guy, but not the best in coverage. And then after that, we're talking about names here that are just kind of interesting to watch. We brought up Sione Vaki before the show from Utah. He's an okay safety, but he also played running back. He's multiple positions. That's the type of guy that he's a football player type of guy that you like to have on your team because he's multiple, and that's good for things like special teams, which is where, he's being drafted. It's something that he can fit in as a special team player kind of right away. After that, I mean, you have different guys that I like as developmental, but I'm not expecting much out of them. I'm looking at 5th round and later for a lot of these guys. Jalen Simpson out of Auburn, and I believe there's one more, Josh Proctor out of Ohio State. Yeah, that I kind of like as 5th through 7th round or UDFA type of guys. Whereas I'm not going to be heartbroken if I don't get him.
I don't like Proctor as much as I liked Ronnie Hickman last year. Who Hickman was great, stuck with the Browns, made big plays for us. Proctor, I feel like, is a little bit below that. He'd probably end up in the same boat. I can't see him getting drafted.
Yeah, I think he's probably going to be UDFA.
Yeah. He'll probably stick around, but I don't know if he'll make a big time impact anytime soon. He's a special teamer with an injury or two. You can see the field, and then you can really see what he's capable of doing. But I don't know that he's pressing anybody for any time anytime soon.
Yeah, no, he's a practice squad type of guy who, if he shows up, well, might be like your third safety or fourth safety on the roster.
All right. You got any other safeties? Any other defensive backs?
No one that I necessarily want to talk about.
Okay. No other prospects?
Nah.
All right. Well, let's fucking move on then. You got the report cards pulled out, brother?
I do.
All right. Let's go ahead. Let's pull up the report cards. Let's talk some report cards. Once again, your team, fucking great. I mean, you go from 1 to 2, little slide. But goddamn, you guys are still killing it. There was some interesting grades that came out. Greatest coach on the planet right now, apparently, Andy Reid. Makes sense. Wins the Super Bowl. Worst fucking owner, though, Hunt, the Chiefs owner. So let's start diving into that.
Yeah, it kind of makes you wonder, some of the Chiefs grades, despite them, being Super Bowl champions here, were not as good as you would expect. And I guess it kind of shows that, like, I don't know if I want to push the narrative that these grades don't matter as much. It should matter for, getting free agents and stuff like that, but the grades aren't going to matter if players view your team as a spot where they can just go and get a Super Bowl as well. Yeah, Dolphins and Vikings apparently are considered in a class of their own, because the next team, the third rated team, is the Packers. But the Packers, only got 3 A grades, and everything for the Dolphins and Vikings were all A's and high B's. And as a matter of fact, the Dolphins didn't get anything lower than an A- for any of their grades. Vikings got 2 B's. And so that's the way that the NFLPA in their write-up said these two teams are in a class of their own as far as being elite professional sports organizations, and then there's everyone else who has little hiccups, things here and there. But yeah, with the Chiefs, they were the second worst rated team on NFLPA grades. Owner F-.
That's surprising. Tough. How the fuck does that happen for the Hunt family? Like, what is going on?
I'm assuming he's walking around the locker room calling everyone slaves and the N-word. Because, like, I don't know. And hey, like, here's your Christmas bonus. It's a bottle of Hunt's ketchup. Like, I don't know. It's pretty crazy. You would assume, like, it doesn't seem like the players dislike him outwardly, but obviously he's getting some
very clearly. Yeah, that was an interesting development.
Which, let's see here. I'm going to see if I can pull up their actual write-up on the Chiefs specifically about the owner and see what they said here. Club owner Clark Hunt receives a rating of 4.9 out of 10 from Chiefs players when considering his willingness to invest in the facilities. 32nd overall. I don't know. Team travel, they got a D on. 83% of the players felt like they had a comfortable amount of space during flights, but the Chiefs are one of 7 teams that require players to have roommates the night before a game. So they didn't like that. Training staff was an F. Team's head trainer was given the second lowest overall grade compared to other teams. Only 43% of players felt like they got one-on-one treatment. Number of players feeling that the staff isn't willing to provide them support or treatment. So those are probably, more bottom end of the rosters. They're probably all focusing on Pat Mahomes and not getting enough of their time type thing. Players are saying that they're unable to get rehab done to prepare for practices in reference to the lack of overall care. They were the worst rated training staff in the NFL. Training room players didn't like it. Didn't feel like they had enough trainers, enough space, enough physical therapists, enough hot tub space or cold tub space, and were understaffed overall. They hate their locker room. Apparently, the 28th ranked locker room, an F. 74% of players feel like the locker room is big enough, which means a quarter of them don't like it. 63% of players felt like they had enough room in their locker. So just over half of the players felt like they had enough room. The good news is that after many years, the team finally provided chairs for players to use at their lockers.
Wow. You didn't have a fucking chair? Those stools provided?
Yeah. Original plan was for the team to do a full renovation of the locker room after the 22 season. However, the team never followed through with that promise. So we'll see what happens after these grades here. Nutritionist, dietitian, 31st in the league. Team's head dietitian was given the second lowest score. Major issues that players said they felt like she was rarely ever present at the facility. And only 37% of the players felt like they got an individualized plan. Yeah, and I guess they didn't like the treatment of families either. They do have a family room at the stadium and daycare across the street from the stadium on game day. But players want daycare to be offered on site, like most NFL teams provide, making it convenient for families.
So, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Listen, I get it. I understand the grades, but also it's going to be really hard for them to change all of that. Continue to win Super Bowl after Super Bowl, right? Like maybe Pat will be like, hey, Mark, maybe don't fuck over all the families and take care of us. And on this next deal, I will take maybe slightly less than I should. I mean, obviously that shouldn't happen. Pat Mahomes should take every fucking penny he's worth.
Yeah. Look, you just won the Super Bowl. You're getting more money because of that.
Yeah, they should spend some of this fucking money. And that's what the Browns are doing. The Browns got their grades. They saw that they were the 30th ranked fucking weight room. Immediately, they were like, you know what? We're building a new fucking weight room. Now, there were plenty of other things with the Browns report card that could still be fixed because we're one of the 12 teams that does not offer a fucking family room at all at the stadium. Yeah. So there are plenty of things that can be fixed, but when you see that and you make those changes immediately, that's a good thing.
That's the thing is that when you look at all of these things, they're all fixable before the next season for every team. Yep. If you want to go out and have a situation like the Dolphins or Vikings have, the building of a facility, that can take some time, but in the interim, you can make changes. I mean, treatment of families, having daycare on site, that doesn't seem like it should be a problem. Like that seems like it should be super easy. Cafeteria food. If the players don't like it, you go out and you get a new chef, or you make them do a different menu, or you bring in an outside consultant. Same with a dietitian. I guarantee you there are hundreds and thousands of dietitians out there that can perform these roles very well. And it's just a matter of hiring the right people. It shouldn't be a problem. Locker room isn't going to change overnight. I get that. You're going to have to renovate facilities, but you can do things like get better things, show players, hey, these are the plans, and actually give them timelines that you're going to follow through with, which apparently the Chiefs didn't do. Training staff, that sort of stuff. Like there's tons of people going out and becoming personal trainers and trainers at college and physiotherapists and stuff like that. You can go out and you can find the right people for the right price. It can be done. A bunch of teams have done these things. You know, I guess ownership, I don't know how you fix ownership other than getting rid of the owner. That's what surprised me the most here on this was Lamar Hunt is, or excuse me, is it Lamar Hunt? And it's the Lamar Hunt
Did I say Mark? No, the Lamar Hunt trophy.
Yeah,
but it should be I believe it's Mark Hunt is the current owner of the.
Either way, Clark Hunt, you're the worst owner, but David Tepper's in the league. How the fuck did that happen?
Yeah, that's bad. Like there's no way anybody should be coming in last other than David Tepper.
Unless the man Snyder somehow was an owner again,
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
And you have some unfortunate scores that happen and stuff like that, like with the Raiders, worst rated head coach, but that
not the current head coach. That was the previous.
Yeah, it's got to be based off of previous head coach. So they're going to see an immediate jump there. Little things like, making players share, hotel rooms. It's not necessary. It's an obvious money saving effort by the team.
Yeah. But
So
let's
like
also consider who these owners are and the billions of dollars that they basically have at their disposal.
Yeah.
Like some of this stuff is so simple to fix that it should be fixed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's, I feel like, we made a lot of fun of the Arizona Cardinals last year.
Oh, we fucking
and
torched them.
how terrible they were. They're 27th out of 32 this year. They've gone up 5 spots. That's progress. We'd like to see more, but I mean, treatment of families is still not good. Food and cafeteria is still not good. Locker room is still second worst in the league. Ownership, not happy with ownership again, 30th ranked in the league, but they've made some noticeable increases in other areas. They're moving in the right direction, I guess. You'd like to see a bigger jump though, because to me, honestly, the way that these statistics are going to end up working is there's 32 teams. There has to be a last place, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But if you're last place with a fucking A-, you're okay taking last place.
Right. And so I feel like at some point in time, the NFLPA is the one running this audit, these grades from players. How long will it be before they start to mandate some of these things in CBAs and stuff like that? Be like, hey, we're just going to keep fucking trashing you. Why don't you just fix these things? Honestly, it's a minor investment monetarily for you guys to do this, and it only benefits the team, really. Like the amount of money that's going to take to fix some of these things is such a drop in the bucket compared to everything else. But if you're bringing up player satisfaction, it's going to make players want to go play there more.
Yes. This is not only an investment in the thing in your facilities. This is an investment in your organization as it relates to being able to sign players. The better your report card, the higher likelihood you're going to be able to sign players, unless you just have a shitload of cap space and you're willing to toss a shit ton of money at somebody in overpay.
Mm-hmm.
This stuff matters.
The same thing is going to happen with a couple of these squads that are basically ready for the Super Bowl. As a player is going to be more likely to go to a spot if they think that I can win despite having bad grades. Like if I'm being offered, hey, I can go to the Carolina Panthers or I can go to the Chiefs, I'm probably leaning towards the Chiefs despite them both having not great grades. Because I want to win. Yeah. So yeah, anything that you want to bring up with the grades, like as far as your team?
My team, the one thing I wanted to bring up was the weight room that came out. They were 30th ranked for their weight room, and almost immediately it was reported that they were planning to put in a new weight room. So good on Jimmy and D Haslam for seeing a problem, recognizing it, and taking the fucking actions immediately to fix that. That's what you want to see out of your owner. I like that. And Jimmy and D did not have a great run when they started owning the Browns. They were despised. Things were not going well. But as things have turned around and gotten better, they actually got a pretty decent grade, like middle of the pack as an owner. And they were much maligned for basically their entire beginning. I think recognizing problems and adjusting those immediately helps with that. So it's good on them.
17th ranked owner group, but it's a B, and I'm happy with a B. Right?
B's great. I'm good with a B.
Yeah. Now, like your lowest areas, team travel, weight room.
There are things that definitely need to be improved. Let's not fucking get it twisted. Yeah, we need to get a place in the stadium that the families can go. Like that, to me, that feels like it should be a given. Maybe I'm just being, overly demanding, but when you're talking about an organization that only employs a few thousand people, but it's worth billions of fucking dollars, it should be pretty goddamn simple to make those corrections.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think that you guys have room to improve, but it's not terrible by any means. Like, I'm just glad that neither of our teams are an embarrassment, like some of the teams.
Yeah. Let's improve the team travel. The weight room's already taken care of, and then let's get families taken care of. Like that's important. We're a C. Okay, we're right at the edge. D's, improve the D's.
Yeah. And so to be clear again, is Dolphins, then the Vikings at the top, followed apparently by a decent distance by the Packers. But at your bottom of the board here, worst team rating is the Commanders. And that makes a lot of sense. You, as a fan, if I look at that, I can say, all right, well, we have a new ownership group in here that's going to be working on building a new stadium, new facilities. Like, we are completely redoing everything. I would expect these scores to jump, or to jump tremendously, depending on when these facilities and stuff are finally built. Chiefs being the second worst, big surprise there to me, just because they just won the Super Bowl. And then you have the Chargers, Patriots, and Steelers, and the Cardinals. Bengals didn't have a good look in a lot of spots either.
Chargers, Patriots, all make sense. Those teams lose their head coach. They were not playing well. Their teams are not happy. That makes 100% sense. Steelers is surprising to me that they're as low as they were, considering how influential the Rooney family is, how much Tomlin fucking wins. Like, that was surprising to me. Not surprising to me.
They had the second worst owner group.
Yeah, which is, man, maybe that is the Rooney way and the way they do business is starting to waver.
It's just with the ownership stuff, it seems like they're focusing on the owner's willingness to support building facilities and keeping them upgraded.
And the Steelers are not known to necessarily spend a lot of money. They don't necessarily go out and spend money on free agents or facilities. There's a standard. You are drafted to the Steelers or whatever happens. However you make it there, you're expected to act like a fucking Steeler and just play. And they're pretty good about that. It's much like the fucking Patriot way. They're very similar models, but it could be a little non-conducive to making your employees happy. Back in the, couple years ago, before they had dog shit quarterback play, you can get away with that. When you got Ben Roethlisberger and you're taking you to the fucking playoffs every year and competing for titles, that's fine. But when we're trying out fucking Mason Rudolph, Mitch Trubisky, and Kenny Pickett, all of that shit becomes really bad. Like, I don't want to fucking do this anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Anything else with the?
I'm gonna say I think a team performance affects a lot of these grades more than just the thing themselves.
Yeah, for sure. There's going to be a direct correlation, I believe, with the team performance, which makes it even more surprising that the Chiefs are down there as low as they are. All right. Any other great stuff that you want to talk about?
Not for me, brother.
All right. Combine rumors, anything like that you want to go over?
So I have not been like super paying attention to the rumors. I always typically wait for about a week to figure out, okay, now they're showing this clip of this person and this person talking. Let's figure out why they were talking. Like, in the moment, watching the combine, you don't see a lot. It's the coverage the week after where you're like, oh, so Jerry Jones had some interesting conversations with Jimmy Haslam. And then you end up with an Amari Cooper trade. Like, that's when you really find this shit out. Now, watching the combine, I don't pay too much attention to it. What about you? Have you caught anything that maybe I'm not aware of?
I mean, the biggest stuff for me really is the quarterback watch and Kirk Cousins type centric information right now.
So you did send me this information last night, and I thought for sure that it was going to be part of reckless speculation. I'm actually going to play the clip, but this is starting to pick up a lot of fucking steam.
It's time for reckless speculation.
That's right. Reckless speculation. Send it, brother. Tell me what you got.
Right now, a lot of the talk with the quarterback situation is revolving around what happens with Justin Fields and what's going on with the Atlanta Falcons. Because right now, the best quarterback situation for a quarterback to go into, a team, a quarterback away, if you will, seems to be that Atlanta Falcons team. Within the last week, had a video come out of Justin Fields, it looks like at home, kind of cheering, being happy, like he got some really good news. And you hear someone in the background say, like, are you ready to go home? Well, Atlanta's kind of his home area. He's been mocked a lot to being traded there and whatnot. And then in the past 24, 48 hours, apparently, we're having reports come out from Atlanta beat writers, the same beat writer that broke initially, hey, Belichick is not going to the Falcons. A bunch of the ownership group doesn't want him. This same guy is saying the word around town is that Arthur Blank has come out and said, I don't care what it takes, what you have to do, bring Kirk Cousins here, that he wants him to be the quarterback. Because if we are just talking play on the field alone, production wise, Kirk Cousins is a better quarterback than Justin Fields.
100%.
Like you look at the statistics that he's put up over the past couple of years, especially under Kevin O'Connell, and then you look at what the situation is going to be down there in Atlanta. They've got a good line. They've got a really good running back. They've got some receiving options. If you bring in a quarterback, you can go out and get a receiver with that pick at number 9, or you can start to bolster that defense. But you've got now a defensive-minded head coach who's coming from the McVay scheme, and Zach Robinson from the McVay scheme, and you have Kevin O'Connell, who just came from the McVay scheme. So similarities there, along with, that's just on the field production-wise. I feel like Kirk Cousins makes the best sense to them and is a fit in that respect. But also Kirk Cousins, his wife, Julie, is from the Atlanta suburbs. His dad, it runs a church in Florida. They have more familial ties to the Atlanta area than they do in the Minnesota area. Yes, Kirk Cousins grew up was born in Illinois, went to college in Michigan. But beyond that, like, they don't really have much ties to the Minnesota area for them to really come back give any sort of like hometown discount. Whereas in Atlanta, they have family down there. And yeah, I believe it was Diana Rossini reported that, Julie Cousins is going to be playing a role in the selection of where they go because family matters to them. On the flip side, I mean, if we're not just looking at play on the field, you have a higher, maybe not higher ceiling, but you have a lot of unknowns with Justin Fields. You've seen some of the floor, and he's made some progress, but you have a player that's been in the league for 3 years now and has won 10 total games when he's been a starter, which isn't a good look. He's been on terrible teams, and he's had a lot of inconsistencies, but he is an Atlanta guy. We know how Arthur Blank feels about Atlanta players and Georgia players and things like that, and liking to get him down there. You also have a much cheaper contract situation with Justin Fields. He's going into his 4th year. You could, excuse me. You can elect to do the 5th year option.
Bless you. Keep going. I got to pee.
Thank you. You can elect to do that 5th year option or not, which is going to keep him, again, relatively cheap to kind of see what you got. But you might be limiting your total play on the field. So I think most people think right now the betting favorites to get Kirk Cousins is for him to be staying in Minnesota. I don't think that those people are thinking rationally. Because if Atlanta is truly in the market for him, it's the best spot to go. They've got the money to do it. Arthur Blank has the checkbook to do it. The Vikings do not have the money to compete with these teams on big-time, long-term deals with Kirk Cousins, and they've already shown their hand that they want to move on. They tried to attempt to move up into the 1st round for a quarterback last year. They declined Kirk Cousins' extension offers last year. They're ready to move on. Does the team want him back? Sure. Does Kevin O'Connell want Kirk Cousins back on the Vikings? Sure. But it just doesn't make financial sense, and it doesn't make roster building sense in the long term. So I think that the more teams out there that want to try to go after Kirk Cousins, the better, because then it means that he's not coming back to my Vikings, and we can make that look towards the future, which is really what I want to do. Now, if Justin Fields gets traded to Atlanta, the market for Cousins then immediately dries up hardcore. Your other major players is Denver Broncos. They don't have money. They still have Russ under contract, but they don't have money, and they're not going to be able to push this can down the road that far. Pittsburgh Steelers have said that they want to stick with Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph.
Yes. Keep doing that, Steelers. Keep doing that.
I don't think that Kirk Cousins elects to go to New England, where they are going to have the opportunity to draft one of the top quarterbacks, and also they have a terrible team with no receiving option, no offensive line, and average running back play there. Like, I don't think he's going to elect to do that. I don't know. Oakland, the Raiders have and Pierce have made strong statements about how they are going to stick with Ed O'Connell, and their next guy is going to be a guy that they bring in. They don't want to bring someone from outside. And yeah, that could be some fluff, but I mean, Pierce has been nothing if not direct and to the point with what he likes.
That's very true.
So
much to the chagrin of the Lombardi family.
Yeah. So I when he says that. So if Kirk Cousins, or excuse me, if Justin Fields goes to Atlanta via a trade, which that trade cannot be processed until the start of the new league year, new tampering is the 13th, right? We are like
Yep.
10 days away from this stuff, basically. If that
From
trade
the legal tampering, yes. Well, we're currently watching the tampering period.
Yeah. But if that trade doesn't go down, then Kirk Cousins, I think, goes to Atlanta. If Fields goes to Atlanta, Kirk Cousins' market, in my opinion, dries up heavily. And that's where you can see a return to the Vikings because it's going to be the most comfortable spot for him. I think that they will find something in the 35 mil a year range or something like that, which is potentially underpaying him at this point, but I don't give a fuck. And it's got to be without minimal guarantees because the team is still going to possibly.
That's the hard part.
Quarterback.
Somebody is going to sign Kirk for guaranteed money. That's the thing, is that he will take less if it's guaranteed. Kirk knows because he's been working the structure for the last 8 years now? Is that right? 8 years at fucking guaranteed money. Like, he fucking tore his Achilles. You know what? Got fucking paid. Kirk is not going to give up that whole guaranteed thing. And if he does, it's going to be on a team that he feels like he can fucking win. Like, it has to be a great winning situation, which might be going back to the Vikings. That might be the best winning situation that he can find himself.
Yeah, if it's not Atlanta, it would be the Vikings. But I think the Vikings have already, they're in the driver's seat on this. They've already said that we're not going to guarantee you the money.
If I bet you the Vikings would guarantee the money if he's willing to drop it down to 25 to 30 a year.
I think anybody would at that point. But
exactly. So that's the thing.
Kirk guarantees.
No. Kirk's only getting max 2 years.
That's right now. It seems like one of the holdups for him is that, the Vikings are willing to guarantee 24. They're only willing to partially guarantee 25 and no guarantees in 26 if we're talking about.
Well, you can't guarantee him past 2 years. He's a fucking 36 or 37-year-old quarterback coming off an Achilles injury.
Yeah. And also I didn't understand these metrics. Once you've torn one Achilles, the probability of you tearing your other Achilles goes up to 68-70%. We've seen it in recent history with Vikings running back Cam Akers.
Yeah.
One Achilles and then the other one. Apparently that's a thing. So
I did not know that.
Yeah, I didn't know it either until recently. So the possibility of that happening, the Vikings would be looking for injury clauses and things like that to be added in. He's had no trade clauses. They wouldn't be accepting of that. I think the Vikings are in the driver's seat with this. I'm okay with bringing Cousins back on a reasonable deal that's not going to prevent us from looking towards our future, both in contracts and in drafting a rookie quarterback. I don't know how Kirk's going to feel about that, though. And that's why when the Atlanta steam came back into play, I was all on board for it. I'm like, yes, go to Atlanta. Send Kirk off. Good, clean-cut ties. It doesn't make either side look bad. If Minnesota can't compete with the Atlanta money, yeah, it makes sense. He's got to go there.
That's Atlanta, a nice clean break that everybody would want in that situation.
Absolutely.
But apparently it's becoming, is it more or less likely? Well, if Arthur Blank is really saying go do whatever you have to do, is he willing to pay Kirk 35, 40 million for 2 years fully guaranteed?
I think that I think if those rumors are true, we could see Kirk getting close to the 50 mil a year guaranteed for up to 3 years.
That's insane for Kirk. No offense to Kirk by any means. And I will probably never refer to him as Kirko Chains again. That is motherfucking Kirko Grills now.
Yeah, you got that grill.
Yeah. That's way too much. You can't. I feel the same way about Aaron Rodgers. If I'm the Jets, I'm like, hey, man, you want to find a way to restructure this contract? Because paying this amount of money when you're turning 39, coming off an Achilles injury, even though you did some sort of experimental surgery, doesn't necessarily sit right with me because that money is fully fucking guaranteed. If that metric is really that high, 70, 80% to tear the other Achilles, I don't know how you would even consider doing that unless Arthur Blank is just saying, fuck it, we're pushing the chips in. Are they going full on, fuck this money, fuck them picks?
Well, I mean, if you look at the NFC South, there is no clear leader. Atlanta with a quarterback immediately becomes the clear leader, and their offensive issues are, I mean, you could use another receiver for sure, but there's going to be guys out there that you can get in free agency and things like that. But it's on the defensive side of the ball that they need to fix things. Well, you get the 9th overall pick. That's a receiver or a defensive end, probably, maybe a cornerback if you want to. And you can focus with the rest of your free agent money in bringing in like another big name or a couple other pieces that are going to fit this Raheem Morris system. Like they can turn the defense into an okay defense, middle of the pack to bottom half still. But the offense is going to make a monumental jump probably if you bring in a competent quarterback along with a competent play caller. Like competent play caller alone is going to make a big deal difference. But bringing in Kirk Cousins like that, someone, even a Justin Fields, you're going to see a big time boost to that offense. Yeah. They're easily going to win the NFC South, in my opinion. And once you get in, to the competition there, into the playoffs, anything's possible. And that's the way that a lot of owners are going to view it. Is as long as we're able to get in, we can make a strong run here. Kirk Cousins is probably giving Arthur Blank the feeling of a Matt Ryan back in 2018.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like they got to have one of the youngest offenses in all of football right now. Mm-hmm. They have drafted offensive for the last 3 years. I want to say.
Yeah, they've made investments in that O-line. They went out and got Bijan last year, Drake London, things like that. Like
they've fucking Kyle Pitts. Like they have gone heavy offense.
Yeah, absolutely.
The quarterback Kirk probably makes that team for sure dangerous in the South. Like the hands down favorite to win the South if Kirk goes there. Yeah. I still think he is there. They would be the favorite if Justin Fields goes there too.
I do as well. Yeah. I mean, the next closest team is Tampa Bay with
Baker, who may or may not resign. And if Mike Evans doesn't resign, that Tampa job, I'm not sure it's very attractive.
Yeah,
like we talked about this, on our own text. But if I'm Baker Mayfield and I find out that Mike Evans is not resigning, I might go test free agency and see what other money else is out there. And what the situations look like. Obviously, there will be teams who will not be in on Baker, and Baker would not be in on them again, like the Panthers. That's not happening because they have a young rookie that they think can develop. I don't believe so, but you're not going to see Sean Payton go and try to bring in a Baker Mayfield. That is butting of heads that I could not even imagine between a head coach and quarterback. So there will be teams that won't be in there, but somebody will. And I brought it up to you. If Kirk goes and Baker says, I'm not going to Tampa, Baker Mayfield up in fucking Minnesota could be a very real possibility. And I think would be an interesting, nice little fit. But I believe KOC wants his own dude.
Yeah, I mean, KOC loves Kirk. They are like their families are friends. They hang out all the time, things like that. Like I believe that KOC really wants Kirk back, but the reality is that he's probably not coming back just based off the financials. And the next step to that isn't bringing in another veteran. It's developing your own guy, and you would like to develop your own guy while you have a veteran in place. And so if you bring Baker in, I still feel like that's a bridge situation, and I don't know that Baker wants to be a bridge at this point. So if the money's right, like we talked about, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with bringing Baker in, but I don't think that the money will be right for the Vikings, and I don't think the terms will be right for Baker. So,
agreed. However, I feel scheme fit wise, I feel like it would really fit.
Yeah, I think that
really would fit.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, that's the stuff that's kind of rumor mill has just been around the quarterback situation. What's going to happen there? Which again, it's March 2nd, March 13th. Right around the corner. If you're going to be seeing a trade of draft picks prior to the draft, it's probably going to be right around that time too, because again, the Vikings look like they want to be aggressive. If they have an opportunity to move up to, like, say, the 3rd pick with the Patriots, I would expect that to happen very quickly as the free agency period opens up, because
I have a very hard time believing the Patriots will trade out based on the comments that were made this week. It is almost certain that Mac Jones and fucking Bailey Zappi are not going to be on that team.
I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, man. I'm so excited for the silly season of football because this is where we get to truly just be fans. We can fucking make our reckless speculations and all of that. We don't have to worry about giving picks and being right. So this is the fun part of the year for me. Like I'm pumped. We got running backs out here running Texas routes on both sides. Pat McAfee was just on the screen for some reason.
He's in the booth there
with
them right now, getting Indianapolis chance going. But yeah. All right, brother.
Well, fuck, that was time perfect. We got anything else?
No, I don't think so.
All right, man. Well, let's get the fuck out of here. Hey, everybody, this is the Lineman Lounge. I'm Mike. That is Evo. Anytime you spend time with us, we greatly appreciate it. Time is the most valuable thing that you have. So if you want to spend a little more time with us, go head over to YouTube, hit the subscribe, the bell, so you get the notifications. Interact with us on Facebook, Twitter, or X. Even though I'm still not calling it that yet. Instagram, TikTok, all of those places. We got all sorts of content coming out. But we appreciate you. We love you guys. And then we will be back next week. Evo, one last word for the people.
No, I can't say penis again, can I? Penis.
That's the word that we should go with. Guys, we love you. We appreciate you. We're getting the fuck out of here. See you.